relic weapons. A unique evolving class of weapons found within each of Final Fantasy XIV's expansions, each with its own questline and process to obtain. While these have had their ups and downs over the past decade or so, none are quite as poorly thought out as the current relics that we find in Dawntrail. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Kurojaku. Today, I'm here to dig deep into why these phantom weapons seem to be so misguided in comparison to the relic systems that came before. Now, at the time of making this particular video, I'm aware that the Dawntrail relic isn't even finished yet. To that I say I don't care. We are only halfway through this embarrassment to Geralt's legacy and I'm already a bit miffed. Allow me to explain. Relic weapons were first added back during A Realm Reborn as a sort of long-term project weapon to work on, starting with a rather long intro quest, including 2 brand new trials that resulted in you getting the first of many stages of weapons to come. Each stage of weapon had its own model, though often the same model would be reused once or twice, possibly even getting a fancy glow effect before upgrading to an entirely new look. Should you complete an entire relic, you'd then be able to obtain replicas to store and use as glamour, making these weapons not just a power grind that gets outdated next expansion, but a forever evergreen trophy of sorts. Many would say that these Realm Reborn relics are the most annoying of the bunch to grind, and despite my many issues with trials of my goddamn patience, I do appreciate the way these particular relics took you on a journey through all of the content of Realm Reborn had to offer. Fates, dungeons, alliance raids, more fates, cause fuck you. Hell, even the hunt marks managed to sneak their way into the relic quest somehow. I quite like the concept of these first set of relics. The concept, mind you, not the execution. Watching flies fuck would be a far more stimulating and engaging experience than you'd get waiting around for a single exact goddamn fate to spawn. That being said, it is all totally worth it to obtain the ultimate kettle nexus. Next came Heavensward, where our new friend Geralt returns once again and joins the Warrior of Light in everyone's favorite zone, Aziz's Law. Boy do I love Aziz's Law, especially the lack of Aetherites around here. Anyways, back to the topic. This relic followed the same general concept as the previous relic, encouraging you once again to get a little taster of Heavenward's various forms of content. A great idea in theory, but they did make one fatal blunder. That being how much of these steps in the long run boiled down to just simply 21 flavors of tome farming. Now, I was not around in those days. I'm willing to bet most of you weren't around either. Hell, the very individuals who designed the relic quests themselves may not even be around, but who knows? All we do know is in current day, these relics are basically a glorified tombstone farm. I'll be touching more on this later. But hey, you get a cute little minion out of it as a consolation prize, so that's nice. Just when the formula might have started to get a little old and repetitive, we got the Stormblood relics, or more commonly referred to as the Eureka relics. This is, in my personal, humble opinion, the best relic weapon they have yet to implement or have ever implemented since. What starts with a beat-up antique you get from finishing your job quests, do your fucking job quests, would you please, leads on a wondrous journey to the Isles of Eureka, a completely unique form of content with its own level system, special skills, and even punishments for death. It's good, solid, old-school MMO fun, and just as an anecdote, was one of the most enjoyable social experiences I've had in 14 so far. Not certain how busy it is these days, or when you happen to be hearing these words, but even so, gather up a few friends and go give it a try. In short, the Stormblood relic is made by collecting materials during your Eureka journey across all 4 islands, with a special optional final stage that, while looking identical to the one before, and does not come with an achievement, comes with a special weapon stat that makes these weapons forever best in slot for the unique 48-man Eureka raid. It's not just a pretty glowing beatstick, it's a useful pretty glowing beatstick. Should you want one of these for yourself, by the way, or the sick-ass glams that come with it along the way, I may or may not have made a few Eureka guides last year that you should definitely take a peek at. Watch them, like them, share them with your friends. I do like when the numby goes up. Subtle self-promo out of the way, let's continue on to the Shadowbringers relics. Shadowbringers. Yoshi P's gift to mortal men has brought us yet another exploration zone much like Eureka, yet very different in many ways. This would be Bosnia. But don't worry, I don't have any guides to shove in your eyeballs for this one. Yet. Once again, 14 would follow the trend set by its previous expansion and center their relic weapons around this special form of content. but with a twist. While Eureka demanded you to stay within the new content to work on your relics, as it was the only place to find said materials, Bosnia had other ideas. While yes, every step could still be farmed in the field operation one way or another, every step also had a slower alternative outside of Bosnia for those boring, unimaginative folk who'd rather not brave the trenches. Usually involving various forms of content the older relics touched on, such as dungeons and raids, and I find this to be an excellent idea. Keep the fast track in the field op, but give people the option to stay out of it. You know, if you're lame like that. The only two things stopping this from being my favorite of the relic grinds are such. One, the relic has zero impact on the field op itself. Eureka's doesn't until the very final option step, but I'd have liked to see every stage of the relic to provide some special stat bump in Bosnia to encourage your progress and to keep the weapon ever valuable. That being said, I can kind of hand-wave this as Bosnia doesn't really have any sort of unique damage scaling stat like Eureka had in the past. And number 2, the first half of Bosnia's relic grind is excellent. The second half, much like Bosnia itself, was not so much and feels very, very rushed together. It's just one grand long one-step grind before farming the finale boss of the zone to finish the relic off. Painting a fence using a single blade of grass is a less tedious and more enlightening experience than drudging around all of Zadnor grinding out a Costco's list worth of drops. Regardless of its shortcomings, the Bosnian relics are still a step forward and show clear signs of improving the formula. So surely, Endwalker, the ultimate finale of the great saga that is Final Fantasy XIV, surely it will perfect the formula that has been so meticulously developed over the past half-decade or so, right? Wrong. I'm going to give this section about as much care and attention as Square Enix did. That is to say, it's a tombstone dump. Do roulettes, get your shit, here's a tasteful photo of a sweaty new gentleman, now move the fuck along, would you please? Which finally brings me to Dawn Trail. It's been a rather contentious expansion so far, with many highs and many lows. I'm honestly a big fan of Dawn Trail. Bold claim, I know, but someone has to be right around here. What I am not a fan of, however, are these stupid, nonsensical, poorly thought out relics. In fact, I'm not particularly a fan of anything to do with the field op either, but that's some free-floating hostility for another time. Let's just stay on topic, shall we? So, the relic steps open up as usual. Geralt has alimony payments or some such and needs to make some shiny new gadget to pay off his poor drinking habits. I too will have a poor drinking habit by the time this relic is done. And as usual, it's up to us to do all the work, so off we trot to collect a series of little gummies. There are 6 of these in total, and we will be needing 3 of each variety. There are 2 ways to acquire these. One is within the Crescent from doing fates and boss fights. The other is from doing fates in each Dawn Trail zone. Honestly, this first step is fine. Drop rates are horrid. But it is a one-time step, so it's not really a huge issue, personally. After that, it's just a tombstone dump for the rest of your relics, and genuinely, I do quite like the idea here. A long grind to truly feel like you've earned that first relic, or more like suffered for it, and a simple method to collect weapons for other jobs that you just don't play as much. The real issues arrive in step 2. In this stage, Geralt kindly asks you to glaze his orbs in your aether, and no, I will not be rephrasing that, grow up. To do this, you must go out and blow your load with strangers in various roulettes, and this is where I start to have big problems. First of all, why is there no possible method of orb glazing in the Opal Crescent itself? I'm not saying I want to play more of that Light Forsaken zone per se, but the least you could do is give me the opportunity to reject the offer. In fact, the very nature of field operations being an instance, one you cannot queue for roulette from, mind you, directly discourages you from even entering Opal Crescent in the first place. This is taking a huge step back from the previous field ops entirely. Second issue I have with this mess of a relic. Why must they be roulettes? Now I understand the intent. Roulettes are evergreen. This stops people from being able to blast through ARR dungeons at level 100 like how one might grind out the old relics. The problem, however, is that roulettes are boring. Even at level 100, a whole group of random level 100s, somehow, some way, y'all are taking a one-way trip back to fucking Aurum or Crystal Tower. Nobody, and I mean nobody, genuinely wishes to play boring-ass roulettes with a level 50 or 60 job, especially when the best way to get the tombstones needed after this step is more fucking roulettes. Instead of this, why not just make it level sync duties? Roulettes would remain the most straightforward route, sure, but god damn it, if I want to farm an alliance raid for glam while filling my orbs, then I ought to be able to. On top of that, there ought to be a way to load up on Aether in the Crescent itself, maybe through earning gold or silver, maybe completing pop fates. Do something that naturally guides the player towards the different content available in the zone. A hidden tutorial while grinding out your first relic, much like what Eureka and Bosnia did, I might add, is a fantastic way to hook players in. And finally, we can talk about the latest addition added in 7.4. It is a simple task that involves running various forms of content to grab a specific material, quite reminiscent of the older relics we've had, but there's just one teensy tiny little problem with this chart, and I will give you a moment to guess what it is. If you said Occult Crescent being one of the lowest sources on the list, congratulations, you get a cookie. But seriously, whose ass backwards nonsensical idea was it to make leveling roulettes the best farm again? If we consider the in-between tome grinds as steps themselves, which, according to Endwalker, they most certainly count as steps, every single step besides the gummy collection at the very start can basically be boiled down to go farm fucking roulettes. Or at the very least, that is always the most viable option. This entire list needs to be flipped on its head. Roulettes can gain progress, fine, whatever, but critical engagement and skirmishes should be the fastest farmable source, say maybe 5 or 15 respectively, bringing one of each combined equal to that of an entire level roulette. More often than not, you'll be doing 1 skirmish per critical engagement, and this would make it at least on par, if not faster, than doing the roulettes themselves. Other forms of Crescent content should be present as well. Perhaps pop fates can be worth 10, with an extra 5, 10, or even 20 based on the tier of chest you find. Lucky rabbit carrots for certain should be at least 25 or 30 due to their rarity. And here's a really bold idea, now we're getting frisky. What if we made Fork Tower worth 50, or even more excitingly, a fun, cool 100 upon clearing? This would heavily incentivize players who've been a little dodgy about the instance raid to give it a try and get at least 1 clear, if not grind out most of this step of farming the tower, which, up to this point, has yet to be involved in any meaningful way with either the storyline or the relic. Keep in mind, 7.5 is not far off, and with it, the second half of the zone, meaning if the Fork Tower is not going to be introduced to players now, chances are there are 0 plans to direct anyone to it at all. All this ranting and raving finally brings me to my point. The field operation and the relics play off each other to create a fun, unique environment people actually want to engage with. Eureka is, all things considered, very simple and straightforward. But it's that shiny relic being so deeply ingrained that gives you a character to chase beyond just seeing your level go up, and for many is the very reason they even bothered to try the zone in the first place. The very same can be said for Bosnia. But as for the Crescent, which perhaps will get its own video as there is a lot more I could say about that in particular, the phantom weapons do little to nothing to truly draw a blind player into this fresh form of content, and at some points, discourages entry or even flat out requires you do not engage with it. But that is enough bitching and moaning for one evening. I've loved relic weapons since I first grinded one out before starting Heavensward. I love the way they make you engage with the game as a whole, and even more so adored Eureka and Bosnia, and very much looked forward to the launch of a brand new field op. Unfortunately, this is, in my humble opinion, the most disappointing aspect of Dawntrail so far. If you happen to agree with me, then by all means, go off in the comments and let me know if you want that video focused solely on the Crescent itself. Liking and subscribing helps too, just saying. Or maybe I'm completely off base here, and you are welcome to convince me otherwise, but who knows? I've been wrong before. We don't talk about the Dark Knight video a couple months ago. I am quite embarrassed. Do, however, take a gander at the Eureka guides if you want to see what a fun field op is like, and in the meantime, I've got to go back to drinking away my sorrows and weapons prog. It's always weapons prog, isn't it? Until next time.